Welcome to Crime Fighters. Today, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency since its creation. What are the counter-narcotic measures put in place by the agency to curb the menace of drugs and its attendant effect on the polity? What has the agency done to alert parents and guardians alike on the rising trend of underage traffickers in the country? These and many other questions will be answered by no other person than the Director of Prosecution and Legal Services in the agency, Mr. Femi Olarutoba.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself, sir?
My name is Femi Olarutoba. I am the Director of Prosecution and Legal Services of NDLEA.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Could you please give us a general assessment of the operations of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency since its creation?
Well, the NDLEA was created in 1990. That's some 12 years ago. And since that time, the agency has operated from three distinctive departments. These are the investigation department, the prosecution, and the drug demand reduction. So NDLEA was conceptualized as a complete organization. So from the arrest down to prosecution is done within NDLEA. And because of the nature of drug, the DDRU is the support department that tries to dissuade people from getting involved in drug trafficking or drug abuse, so that we nip it at the bud. People don't even commit that offense.
Thank you, sir. Drugs are tearing apart our society.
That's true.
Spawning crime, spreading diseases such as AIDS, and killing our youth and future. How do we work towards a drug-free nation?
Well, a drug-free nation is like what I call the utopian, the ideal. It is very difficult to come by. Why it is very difficult to come by is that because criminals will continue to be in the society. So there is nowhere a country can say, oh, I have attained a drug-free society. But what we're trying to do is to stem it, is to make it as low as possible. We want to bring it to a bearable minimum. And that is the whole efforts we are doing. Because there are so many predisposing factors that give rise to drug abuse and drug trafficking. So it's an utopian one. It's the ideal, but very difficult to realize.
So, sir, for the benefit of members of the public, most people do not understand what the drug menace really is, what the exact magnitude is, and what it really entails.
The magnitude of the drug problem?
Drug problem. What is drug menace?
Well, drug menace simply means drug problem. It could also means the way drug is having adverse effects on the society. Simply put, the drug menace will manifest in form of cultism, say in schools, armed robbery on our ways or in our homes. It will manifest in the form of lunatics on the streets. It will manifest in the form of school dropouts. It will manifest in the form of general societal decay. It could even manifest in the form of economic distortion. Because don't forget that the man who is trafficking in drug is making a lot of money for doing nothing, and he will bring the money into the system to debase the whole economic indices. So you can always talk of drug menace in terms of its manifestations. And these are few examples of manifestations of drug menace, which I have told you.
So, sir, why is it that in spite of the arrests being made by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and they are being paraded on television, these death marchers have not relented?
Good.
Why, sir?
The problem has to do with economic factors. Most of the suspects we arrest, especially those that traffic the drugs across the borders, are either young men or young ladies who keep on telling us the stories that I have graduated for 10 years, I have left the school for 6 years, there was nothing for me to do, and so that is why I decided to go into drug trafficking. So you will see that beneath the whole problem, unemployment is the most important one. So long as we are unable to handle the problem of unemployment, drug trafficking will continue to be a recurring decimal.
Most times we hear about the couriers being arrested. What is the agency doing to get the barons arrested?
The drug trafficking system is in layers. Sometimes from our investigation, the layer as many as 5. The man who owns the drug is on the 5th layer. The courier is on the 1st layer. In the chain of events, he may not even know beyond the 2nd man who introduced him. Because the barons, because they are so smart, they never get the couriers to know them directly. That is number 1. Number 2, there is this issue of oath. Most of the couriers, when we arrest them, however you try to persuade them to give out their barons, they refuse. What they would rather say is that they own the drug themselves, or that they will just call the man who introduced them, but they will never mention the name of the barons because they insist that they don't know. And the third one, it is not even true that the agency has not been arresting barons. We have arrested, prosecuted, and convicted so many barons. I'm at liberty to mention some. Alhaji Musa Alubankudi is an Ibadan-based businessman. He was convicted and sentenced to 7 years imprisonment. I'm sure he's no longer in business. Prince Karim Farumbi is the heir apparent to his Solo stool. He was arrested and convicted and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. There are so many others. These are just the 2 I can remember at my fingertips now. So I want to assure you that if the agency has information as to anybody being involved in drug trafficking, we will surely arrest them. And in fact, as a matter of fact, of recent also, there was yet another Alhaji, I cannot remember his name now, Alhaji Tunji, yes, who was arrested and convicted.
Are you ready? Yeah. So, sir, out of all these social menaces you have mentioned,
yes,
which can be said to be, which can be attributed to Nigeria, and what can be done to stem the tide?
No, all the menaces I've mentioned are attributable to Nigeria. Are you going to say there is no armed robbery in Nigeria? Are you going to say there is no cultism in the schools? Or, so if you look all through, there is no one that is not in Nigeria. Stemming it, like we said, is a collective responsibility. NDLA has a role to play. The society has a role to play. Government, in particular, has a role to play. And even individuals. So it's a stakeholders' responsibility. NDLA alone cannot pretend that it has the capacity or capability to stem the drug menace. We need the assistance and support of all these stakeholders to be able to achieve that objective.
So, sir, aside from arresting and prosecuting drug suspects,
yes,
how does the agency help drug addicts to begin a new life?
Okay, good. Like I told you earlier on, drug demand reduction is part of our departments, and this department is in charge of, first, public enlightenment, and second, when eventually they are brought into the agency, either by way of arrest or because some parents will come and say they want their wards to be rehabilitated. So what the drug demand reduction department does is, first of all, to take them through what we call counseling. So they will counsel them on the ills of drugs, and those that we have found to have actually been, hooked on drug, we have what we call rehabilitation homes. So these rehabilitation homes are there for them to teach them new trades, especially those who have dropped out of schools or those who have lost their employments as a result of drug addiction. So these people, they are given a new lease of life by giving them a new training, so that when they eventually rejoin the society, they will not be ostracized. They will have something to do in the society.
So we now come to the courts now, sir.
Yes.
Have they been cooperating with the agency in this regard?
Of course.
And we want to know how many of these suspects have been convicted in the last quarter.
the cooperation we'll be receiving from the courts have been very, very tremendous. Don't forget that our cases are prosecuted only in the Federal High Court. And this Federal High Court is very saturated and very congested in terms of cases. But despite the congestion, they still, do their best to give us space and time to prosecute these drug suspects. If you want to talk of conviction within the last 1 quarter, I will only be able to give you the figure in Lagos alone, because that is what